Shalom, shalom, shalom. One moment here. All right. So, yeah, shalom. I want to begin this lesson by giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who have taught us all this truth in the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. I'm Shaquat, and I'm back here with another lesson. Lord willing, is edifying to the hopeful elect. Yahweh Bahashemi Hawashai Barakathum, to you sincere, Akyum Wa'akwathim, and a sincere shalom to you brothers out there pushing this truth out on the highways and the byways and through the YouTube lessons, man. Shalom unto you all. Lord willing, this lesson will be edifying and exhorting to the elect. All right, so about to get into it here. Yes, sir. So yeah, first, so the title is Second Esdras 15 and 17, which we're going to get into here shortly. Lord willing, I'm going to also read in a message. Hey, the water to that brother Amath, going to that message translation. That translation is very heavy and it gets very detailed. But it says Second Esdras 15 and 17, prophecy watch. Prophecy watch. So we're watching for prophecy. As it states in Second Esdras, the 9th chapter, we are to measure the times diligently. All right, when you go to I believe it's in the book of Proverbs, it says, lift up a trumpet in the Lord's holy mountain, or blow the trumpet in the Lord's holy mountain. All right, and that's what we're doing. You understand? That is our jobs. That is what we are doing. We're preaching the word, be instant in season, out of season. That's our job, is to preach this word. Matter of fact, that's another lesson to even get into. What is our duty? All right. Yeah, it's a lesson. So anyway, we're here to, preach, and we're here to warn the flock. We are the watchmen of Yasharallah. All right, so what is a watchman's job? A watchman's job is to do that. Watch. And when a watchman is on the tower, as we are set on the tower, like it goes into a Habakkuk, all right, we are set on the tower to watch. All right, a watchman watches for danger. And when he sees danger coming, he warns so people can prepare. And that is our job. We are warning. We see the dangers. The Lord has shewed us his secrets. And we see the danger. The scriptures say a prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself. So we are hiding ourselves by doing what the Lord told us to do. All right. We're doing it through the names, spirit, and power of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. So that's how we're hiding ourselves from these pending evils, doing what the Lord commanded of us. And we're also, through the foreseeing the evil, we're warning the flock, which are those of you out there who are listening and believing, right, in all truth and sincerity. Right? And we're also warning heathens. We're warning 2/3 of our people. We're warning the heathens. We're warning everybody. Now, given the heathens don't have a shot at salvation, of course, but we're still telling them their downfall is here. All right, and we're telling them what's going to happen, especially Esau, Edom, and We know 2/3 of our people won't make it, but they still Israelites. They still got to be preached the word. We still got to tell them, if they inquire. All right. So anyway, I want to react a little bit to the Elder Amwan Gabar's video from earlier, and I would like to say everything used in this video, because I will go to a few articles or so, will be used under the Fair Use Copyrights Act of 1976, where all public information that will be used in this video will be used for the purposes of education, teaching, criticism, and research and news reporting. This video will not be monetized. It will not. All right. So let's go to it. Great. Damn, where the video go?
Serious disruption in fuel supply or distribution is the final deal, the real deal, right? As they get ready to implement the MOTB, which stands for the Mark of the Beast. As we hear GMS Great Millstone, starting with the apostles of GMS, the heads on down, have been teaching us and putting the word out there since the beginning of YouTube, and prior to that, before the YouTube scene on the streets. So we're at the doors, we're at the end of the end. The MOTB, Jacob's Trouble, Daniel 12:1, all hell breaking loose is around the corner. It's up the block, we on the corner with it. And then comes World War III by the way of ICBM destruction and the return of our Lord, our Messiah, Yahweh Shai, coming to redeem the elect. And we hope and pray that we are part of that number, starting with the 144,000 prophets and the rest of the 1/3 here in America, and the rest of the elect that are scattered abroad throughout the four corners of the earth. So these are top stories and headlines. I'm going to read a couple of them probably, Lord's will. And as you see, they are recent, a day, an hour ago, 6 hours ago, 21 hours ago. And then I'm going to go to Chat GPT real quick and put in a scenario. What will happen if fuel rationing comes to the United States of America? And see what it say real quick. So like I said, I want to make this quick. Lord's will, within 15 minutes or so, I'll see where the Spirit take it. So let me see. This is from BBC. Slovenia becomes the first EU country to introduce fuel rationing. So let's click on that. Let's see what they're talking about. Slovenia becomes the first EU country to introduce fuel rationing. Man, oh man, oh man. How are they going to introduce this? What measures and steps are they going to take to enforce this? Let's see. We're going to go into it. Slovenia has become the first EU member, which EU stands for European Union, to Slovenia has become the first EU member state to implement fuel rationing to tackle disruptions caused by the U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran and its retaliation on their allies in the Gulf. I did the quick video this morning in transit. What is that? Port Arthur in Texas, the largest oil refinery in the U.S. They calling it. It just went up in flames. I'm not sure how much of it was destroyed, but right now it's on fire. And like I titled the video this morning, this is no coincidence. This is no coincidence. Do y'all not see what's going on? I mean, the elect, the hopeful elect, the ones that are watching, paying attention, brothers see what's going on. The very few sincere sisters that are actually paying attention, y'all see what's going on. What's going on is that things are about to get real crunchy out here. So most major players in the world energy markets, the big guys, attack on oil supply and energy. There's going to be a blackout. Blackouts are coming to Babylon. Better believe that. Many countries have been experiencing steep hikes in fuel prices. In Slovenia, this has resulted in a so-called fuel tourism, as drivers from neighboring countries, particularly Austria, take advantage of the lower regulated prices here. Under the new measures, private motorists in Slovenia will be restricted to a maximum of 50 liters of fuel per day. Businesses and farmers have more generous allowance of 200 liters because they got business to conduct in order to keep the economy going. And of course, drivers and private, drivers got to travel up and down and go where they got to go too. So 50 liters a day. What if, you need more than that, per day?
I'm going to look this up real quick. What is 50 liters Yeah, in gallons. It's 50 liters in gallons. So that equates to about 13 gallons. Okay, so what's 13 gallons? All right, let me do this. What is the typical, okay, I figured out. What is the typical amount of gallons needed to fill a tank, a sedan? About 12 to 16 gallons to fill a sedan from E. So about 12 to 16 gallons, so that's kind of in the ballpark, what somebody would need in a day, I guess. Let's see, what about a lot more people are driving SUVs now, so what about an SUV? All right, larger fuel tanks. So it says it varies, of course, depending on the model, because sometimes you have some SUVs like a Ford Expedition that'll be the same as a sedan down there. But typically, for an average size, it's 23 to 30 gallons. For a full size SUV, it's 25 to 35 gallons. And for a Slovakia, hold on, let's back that back. Hold on. And for a larger SUV, for heavy duty use, like your Ford Explorers, your Expeditions and shit, you know, um, it exceeds 35 gallons. They can have tanks that exceed 35 gallons, right? Which we did 50 liters, which is what they're limited it to over there in the Slovenia, one of the European nations. So if you have a large SUV, or if you have even a full size SUV or an average SUV, you won't be able to fully fill your car up. You're gonna have to go that day and then wait to the next day to get more gas. Crazy work. All right. So if you have a sedan, you're likely gonna be all right. But you have one of these SUVs, you're fucked. All right, you fucked. You ain't gonna be able to fill your tank all the way up. All right. Gotta start keeping your shit on half. That's what you should do anyway. Better on your fuel system. It's better on your engine, all that stuff. But yeah, man, that's crazy because 50 liters in gallons is only 13 gallons. So let's see. What about a truck? Then we're gonna see about a semi truck, and we're gonna go back. Well, I guess it automatically thought I was talking about a semi truck. So, well, let's see what that is. 100 to 150 gallons for a semi truck. You'll probably need around 100 to 150 gallons, man. So, but well, let's see. What's because for the semi trucks for those workers, they said it will be 200 liters. So let's see, 200 liters in gallons. That's about 52 gallons. So when you go back over here, that's about 52 gallons for these guys. This still ain't enough. That still ain't enough to fill up, man. A standard semi truck can't even fill up off that. All right, that still ain't enough. A dual tank, damn sure ain't enough. Ain't even close. So, and then you have your custom mades, but that still ain't enough, right? So, you kind of see why Second Esdras, the 6th chapter, kind of goes into what it does. I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about here. It should give you a better outlook on that. All right, let me show you. Where is it at? Second Esdras 6:22, and suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. The full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. All right, so let's read that one more time. Hold on. Suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. So these sown places, man, these places that are sown, like what? Your storehouses, your well, first off, the farms, they're gonna start being empty, all right, because there's nobody to till the ground, you know. But not only that, which there is a lot of reports in the news going on about that as well. But not only that, all right, your warehouses and things of that sort, with storehouses going to warehouse as well. But you get the point. So suddenly these farms, these ports, warehouses, all of that's going to be unsown. It's going to be empty. And then your full storehouses, which also goes briefly into warehouses, and then your retail stores, your restaurants, all those things are going to be found empty. What is going to be a factor in this? Well, we looked at it, man. The trucks aren't even going to be able to fill up. So they're going to be, this going to be asked out because it ain't going to be with this happening over there in Slovenia, it's not going to be a ask of, hey, we need more money. No, it's going to be hey, we need access to more gas, more oil. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's going to come down to. So, yeah, man, they ain't going to be able to get around like they should. So that can also breed famine. So there you go. Let's go back to the elders video.
Just saying. So let's see.
So that shit just ain't enough, man.
Few retailers had already imposed measures of their own. Hungary, MOL, which operates petrol stations across the region, had already imposed a 30-liter limit. Let me reassure you that there's enough fuel in Slovenia. The warehouses are full and there will be no shortages, says Prime Minister Robert Golob at the weekend. Sure won't. We'll see. Under his government's new measure, the nationwide restrictions are to be policed by the petrol stations themselves, with employees required to make sure that customers do not stock up on more than allowed amount of fuel. The government is also encouraging fuel retailers to introduce stricter limits for foreign drivers. All right, let me see. I'm just going to end it there. You can read the rest of the article. I want to get to the skinny of this. Let me just click around, jump around, see what's going on. European country introduces fuel rationing. What to know? Let's see what we got here. All right, so it's saying the same thing. That's cool. South Korea exempts hydrogen and battery electric vehicles from emergency fuel rationing. Consider every mile we drive. How fuel shortages are affecting readers worldwide. Hey, this is something. Hey, brothers, this thing is going to take off. Now, let me just go straight to the point. So I typed in what happens if the USA starts rationing gasoline. If gasoline rationing were implemented in the United States, it will signal a serious disruption in fuel supply or distribution. Historically, this has only occurred during major crises, such as World War II. Hey, we are in a war. All right, Babylon is at war. All right, this war has been initiated. The start of World War III has already begun. So it says gasoline rationing in the United States and the 1973 oil crisis. The effects will be broad, economic, social, and even prophetic in implications. And it does give a couple precepts, which I'm going to read them. So point number 1, immediate practical effects. Limited fuel access. Citizen will receive a fixed allotment.
Which a part of that prophecy is talking about Revelation, the 6th chapter. I don't want to go there real quick in the Message translation, right? Because I'm sure that's one of the scriptures it did show. So let's show you Revelation chapter 6. All right. All right. Let's see. Going into the black horse. What would that be? Yeah, it's right here. So this is Revelation 6 and 5 through 6 in the Message translation. When he ripped off the third seal, I heard the third animal cry, "Come out." I looked, a black horse this time. All right. It says, his rider carried a set of scales in his hand. I heard a message. All right, going into pestilence, plague. That's what that black on, pestilence, plagues, all of that. Right. I heard a message. It seemed to issue from the four animals, because you had the white horse, you had the pale horse, you had the red horse, and the black horse, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, which the white horse represents Yahweh Shai. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. I believe that's the horses. Let me do this real quick. I ain't went over that in a while. White horse, red horse, black horse, and the pale horse. So yeah, Salakia. So that was right, you know, which that white horse, Salakia, for what I said earlier though, said it was going to Yahweh Shai. I'm thinking of a different chapter. So please forgive me. The white horse does represent something else, which it briefly explained it here. I showed you. Bring it back. Represents a symbol of conquest, deceptive peace, etc. But so please forgive me for that. I was thinking of a different chapter in Revelation when it refers to Yahweh Shai as a white horse and it refers to Esau as the red horse. So Salakia once again, we need new bodies at the end of the day. But it says, let's read that again. A black horse this time, its rider carried a set of scales in his hand. I heard a message. It seemed to issue from the four animals, a quart of wheat for a day's wages, and 3 quarts of barley, but don't lay even a finger on the oil and wine. Now, this don't lay a finger on the oil and wine, this represents 2 things. All right. When I say 2 things, I mean literally 2 things and multifold. All right. So obviously, oil and the wine, all of that is still going to be there. These goods, these certain substances that are needed, all right, for everyday life, they're still going to be there. People just aren't going to be able to afford it, or it's going to be rationed out. That's the point. Also, hurt not the oil and the wine also goes into don't hurt the word, or don't hurt the elect or the word. The wine is the word. The oil is the elect. All this goes into the elect and the oil. The elect and the word. All right. Which we are becoming like Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Shai is the word. So we are being made like unto the word. So this is going into the elect as well. All right. If your spirit can receive it, because we're going to be delivered and protected in these times. As the Lord said in Isaiah 65, we want to start it around about verse 8 or 9. Point being at 13 and 14. Right. So, so it says a quart of wheat for a day's wages and 3 quarts of barley. So you're going to have inflation and you're going to have rationing. This is also going into rationing. Matter of fact, we can even do a simple Google search over here. Is Revelation 6, verse 6 going into hold on, a representation of rationing and inflation? See what the AI is going to give us. It says yes. So even Google AI knows. It says yes, Revelation 6 and verse 6 is a representation of rationing and inflation. The verse describes a time when a quart of wheat cost a day's wages, and 3 quarts of barley also cost a day's wages. So things are going to be extremely inflated in price. And it's going to get even worse because, hyperinflation has yet to come, and it's going to come soon, Lord willing, while the oil and the wine remain untouched. And these things are going to also be rationed out. So you're going to have it being forcefully rationed out, or it's going to be so expensive that it's going to feel like it's getting rationed out, right? This indicates that while the food staples are scarce, other items like oil and wine are not affected, suggesting that the economic hardship is primarily focused on food. And that's true. Yep, that is true. And it says the command, do not harm the oil and wine, implies that God is limiting the judgment to preserve the latter items, which partially correct, yeah, which are less essential to the survival of the people, which I wouldn't say that. I mean, wine is essential, oil is essential, very essential. All right. You need oil for a lot of things. You need wine. Wine is good. All right. It says, which are less essential to the survival of the people, which, okay, you're right. It is less essential. You can say that. It says, this verse, so I read that wrong, forgive me. This verse serves as a warning about the consequences of greed and economic imbalance. And you notice about greed, of course, Esau is a niggard. It says he's very greedy, right? Highlighting the disparity between the wealthy and the poor during times of crisis. So yeah, and they are eliminating the middle class. So anyway, if you go back over here, something else came to mind. What was that I was thinking about? Second Kings 6. So let's go to Second Kings 6. It gives you another example of this happening at one point in time, right? Which is going to come back as well. So Second Kings 6, and we'll start at 24. At a latter time, at a later time, this Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, pulled together his troops and launched a siege on Samaria. This is when the Assyrians attacked the northern kingdom. It says this brought on a terrible famine, so bad that food prices soared astronomically. 80 shekels for a donkey's head. For a donkey's head, which a donkey is an unclean animal anyway. Jacob had to eat what they had to eat in that day, I guess. In Jacob's trouble, you better not have that same mindset, or the Lord gonna kill your ass. 5 shekels for a bowl of field greens, which when you read it in the KJV, it says basically dove shit, dove's dung. So that's what it's talking about, bird shit. All right. One day the king, and then it talks about what it led to women eating each other's children and shit. But nonetheless, you see what happened here: inflation and rationing, inflation and rationing. And when things are inflated, it automatically is being rationed technically because you can't afford it. All right. Or people are going to buy it up so quickly because it's going to become scarce. So people are going to buy it up so quickly, so they don't have to wait later when the prices may be even higher, or when it may be even even maybe fewer. All right. So yeah, let me go back to the elders video. Let's go play.
Via coupons, digital tracking, or license plate systems. As soon as I read digital tracking, I just hit the button. All right, no need to read on any further, but I will. So digital tracking, it's all road leads to the MOTB. All road leads to the chip.
Yeah, and Esau has to bring this collapse. He has to bring this collapse in order to establish a new system. You can't establish a new system on top of an old system. Everything is gonna go break down. A little leaven if the whole lump, right? So that's like putting that's like putting let me think how I want to put this. I'll come back to you with the example if I remember. But nonetheless, you can't put something new into something old and expect it to still be effective. You got to put it in something new. You got to put something new inside of something new. Actually, it's like the scriptures say. You can't put new wine into an old bottle. You can't put new linen into an old garment. You can't do these things. It will taint the new. The old will taint the new, you know, or to be so tainted that the new just plunges right through and it's ineffective, right? So they gotta literally crash this whole system in order to implement the new system. They call it order ab chaos, which is order out of chaos. All right, so
All roads lead to the Revelation 13, verse 16. Everything they're doing is going to lead to that MOTB, to the hour of temptation. That's what we're telling you through the Holy Spirit. All right, no man shall buy or sell, and then the all these systems that they're creating. What's some of the names of the systems they created? Your social credit scores, UBIs, everything is going to be digital. Everything,
that's already very popular over in China. The social credit score, all that stuff is very popular over in China right now. They got that John down packed. Then you got places like Sweden, who have damn near the whole damn country of Sweden chipped the fuck up. So
your your social credit score is all about compliance. Are you complying with the system? Are you doing what you got to do? Are you following orders? Are you following this? UBI, Universal Basic Income. Okay, you complying, you're gonna get paid. You will own that and be happy. All you gotta do is be a debt slave. Be a slave to credit. Be a slave to the system. Be a slave to the MOTB. Be a slave to Esau Edom. You Israelites better not take the chip. You take the chip, Most High gonna kill you. All right, ain't no coming back from that. So, or license plate system. So we're gonna see what's gonna be the first step and method they're gonna roll out. They're gonna do it gradually to get people. Even if the gradualism is only like a month long, a week long, couple weeks long, whatever, until they're ready to up the gradualism, whatever. So long lines and shortages, and gradualism also depends on how severe the emergency is. So sometimes they could just get straight to the point with it, but we'll see. We watching. So long lines and shortages. Gas stations would have restricted hours or run out quickly, which I believe that's going to lead to a lot of panic. People will try to hoard. One thing about these American people, they FOMO. All right, they FOMO a lot. FOMO stands for fear of missing out. So it could be something they don't even want or need, but the fact that it's limited in supply, they want it. You see that a lot with fashion. Something is limited edition, but it's ugly, don't make no sense. Like like for example, in Balenciaga, outfits and shoes and things of that nature, them shit is butt ugly, but because of the name and its limitations, people were just going crazy over it. But whatever. So restricted travel, non-essential travel will be discouraged or prohibited in some cases. Sounds like what was they calling it during the scandemic? Essential workers only. All right, non-essential traveling. That was the phrase. Non-essential traveling is restricted.
And what do you think about when hearing that? This is 2 Esdras 15 and 17. A man shall desire to go into another city and shall not be able. And before we actually get that, I'm going to come back to the elders video, Adawan Ratazah, but I want to get into a few other things I had to back him. Looked up news on Trump sending ICE agents to work TSA, which if you haven't been notified of this, Trump been talking about this for the past week or so, sending ICE agents to help at TSA, which he sent them officially. He's actually sent them within the last few days. He sent them actually. They're in the airports now. My pops, my father, he was telling me the other night how he was, flying out of somewhere in ATL or something, basically saying he was in TSA for 5 fucking hours. 5. That's crazy work. Nigga, I ain't never been in no TSA for even an hour. You know what I'm saying? So that's diabolical. All right. So he was in TSA for 5 hours due to this stuff. Why? Because, well, you see right here. Click on this one even. TSA agents quitting calling out his airport hits with record wait times. Told you he was in there for how long? 5 hours. He's in there for 5 hours in TSA. You understand? So there you go. We go back up for here. All right, Trump to send ICE agents to help strain TSA at airports. So niggas really aren't going to be traveling now because they don't want to get hindered and held up and arrested or detained by ICE and put into a concentration camp. They don't want to go through that. So a lot of the tribes who could possibly be targeted, niggas, etc. A lot of people don't want to go deal with that. And Edomites are being targeted too now. You had those two incidents back in January where two Edomites were put to death by ICE agents, right? So even they wouldn't want to go around them. So you're gonna this is gonna deter a lot of people from even trying to travel. All right. Then that ration, and it's not in America yet, but that's gonna come soon, and you got inflation, so it's harder for a lot of people to travel anyway. All right. It says, when did Trump say ICE agents will arrive at airports to help? And then okay, that's nothing. It says another disaster waiting to happen. Sending ICE agents into airports. Well, let's see what it's about to say. Sending ICE agents into airports incites uproar as TSA wait times stretch hours long. And I just told you about my father, right? Amid the ongoing partial U.S. government shutdown, social media is dominated by images of airports in chaos. Security lines are stretching into airport parking garages. Good Lord. Wait times are hours long. I don't even want to fly that bad. More and more travelers are outright missing their flights due to the delays. On paper, the solution is clear: restore funding to the TSA to get agents paid again and back into airports. But President Donald Trump had a different idea that's going into effect as of Monday. Send ICE agents into airports instead. So this is now day 3 that they've been in the airports, according to this article. The partial shutdown began when the Department of Homeland Security's funding lapsed on February the 14th, with Democrats refusing to fund the department without reform to the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, aka, it says, and then it speaks about the shootings of the two Edomites. They don't want to talk about, they didn't give a fuck about these niggas when they was attacking our people, when they was fucking up the Northern Kingdom and start targeting the Southern Kingdom. But as soon as two motherfucking Edomites get popped, get mollywopped, they get the treatment that we get every fucking day. Now they care. Fucking crazy, man. Hilarious shit. And I don't mean in a fucking good way. This shit aggravates me, man. Now y'all give a fuck. Cause these the two Edomites that got mollywopped. This the bitch who got mollywopped in the car, and this the nigga who got mollywopped trying to be Captain Save a fucking hoe. Dumbass niggas. It's some bullshit. Whatever, man. Now they give a fuck. Now everybody's awoken about ICE. Fucking dickhead ass niggas. Whatever, man. With both ICE and the TSA falling under the DHS, funding for the latter was halted. Please forgive me. Funding for the latter was halted. I do need to go in direction. Hold on. Think about it. Damn. Salakia. The funding for the latter was halted, causing a shortage of TSA workers and inciting the major delays now impacting travelers nationwide. Now you also have in those airports where people who don't even work TSA, they're coming over to try to assist and help out. Anybody that did work TSA that are still showing up is basically just voluntary work at this point because they ain't getting no money. They can't, Democrats have since advanced several motions to fund the TSA without letting ICE go unreformed. But Republicans have blocked them every time. Trump revealed his proposed solution via a Truth Social post. On Monday, ICE will be going to the airports to help our wonderful TSA agents who have stayed on the job despite the fact that the radical left democracy is always this right-left, all this right-left paradigm bullshit. All right, that's Revelation 13 and 11 through 12. It's right-left, great horns, but y'all speaking the same shit. Two different horns speaking the same damn thing. Y'all on the same team, right? But that's all. That's all set up to brew a civil war. That's it. It says, who are only focused on protecting hardline criminals who have entered our country illegally, but they're targeting legals too. Why is it this being stated? And they're targeting people who aren't even criminals. So even if they are illegal, they're not criminals. I thought this was only to attack criminals. But anyway, it says are endangering the USA by holding back the money that was long ago agreed to the to with signed and sealed contracts. And on there you go. So yeah, this shit getting spiffy, man. What this shit talking about here? So, I can skip it. I didn't even see it.
Going battle between Democrats and Republicans over funding the Department of Homeland Security and ensuring pay for Transportation Security Administration workers, the Trump administration has decided to deploy immigration and customs enforcement agents to assist at airports. President Donald Trump confirmed the move on Truth Social shortly after border czar Tom Homan announced it publicly. On Monday, ICE will be going to airports to help our wonderful TSA agents who have stayed on the job, Trump posted. Homan said the plan would activate March 23rd, and when questioned about the short timeline, he downplayed concerns. Again, ICE has been in airports a long time. It's just expanding the same, he said. How much of a plan does it mean to guard an exit to make sure no one comes through that exit? We're talking about security options, and these officers are well trained, Homan said. However, Everett Kelly of the American Federation of Government Employees criticized the move, warning that ICE agents lack aviation security training. ICE agents are not trained or certified in aviation security, he said.
I can't hit 100% of my shots, but I can file free with TurboTax. I love how user-friendly it is and just really transparent. TurboTax.
They deserve to be paid, not replaced by untrained armed agents who have shown how dangerous they can be. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries also raised concerns. The last thing that the American people need is for untrained ICE agents to be deployed at airports, he said. Officials argued staffing shortages forced the decision. Amidst a reckless shutdown and TS.
So anyway, you get the point. Well, it says now its ICE agents begin working at 13 major airports across America. I want to see what these airports are. Social media is sounding off from politicians to everyday citizens concerned about ICE's roles in airport security. Which, yeah. I mean, and you could read on, but let me actually look this up. Or I could go here because we read enough of that. Well, I'll come back to that. So, fuck. What airports have ICE been sent to help TSA? They've been sent to JFK, Newark, all right, Atlanta. I don't know where JFK at, but I know Newark is up there in New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken. Atlanta, Chicago, O'Hare, New Orleans, Houston, Philadelphia, Phoenix, and LaGuardia. All right. So yeah, they've been deployed, and that ain't all of them because they said 13. So this is only what 1, 2. Oh, this is in New York as well. This is also New York. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So they're missing like 4. 4 other airports. But anyway, you get the point. All right, operational notes. It says ICE agents are highly trained law enforcement officers, but are not trained for TSA screening tasks. Their role is primarily to monitor exits, assist with crowd control, and support TSA in maintaining security efficiency. Deployment is part of a broader effort to manage airport security during periods of workforce disruption, ensuring passenger safety and operational continuity. I could already see the damn disaster from here. They see somebody, maybe they documents a little off, and they get the mollywop in their ass. Or somebody say something they don't like to them because nobody likes them niggas. So somebody say something they don't like to them, and then, bullets come out, guns come out, and bullets get to flying because it's not like they're going to be unarmed. It says this deployment is temporary and focused on large airports with significant TSA staffing challenges, and the list of airports may be adjusted based on operational needs and staffing levels. So yeah, you see what's going on, man. And when you go back over here, it said 4-hour TSA lines cripple airport despite ICE presence. All right. So yeah, they hey man, you see what's going on. You see what's going on, man. Bear with me a moment. So yeah, you see what it is, man. All right. Like I said about my pops earlier, 5 hours in that ice in a TSA line. 5 hours. Um. So yeah. Anyway, that's enough concerning that. And also, I want to get into this wine fiasco, this oil fiasco, real briefly as well. Before I end this bad boy off, and I still got to go to second Esdras. But I have the Newsbreak app here on my phone, so I'm gonna just read it from here. So you have 3 articles here. Let's see. We'll read this one here. So it says oil prices surge past $100 a barrel, which we made a lesson about this a few weeks back. As Middle East fighting continues, oil prices are back above 100 a barrel as fighting continues between Israel and Iran continued overnight, rattling global energy markets. Brent crude, the global oil benchmark, climbed above $114. All right, which in another article that I have here, it said $119 even. All right, a barrel Monday before pulling back just under $100 after President Trump said he had productive conversations with Iran about ending the war. Iran denied any dialogue with Washington, and both sides have continued trading strikes. The conflict is now in its 4th week with no clear end in sight for drivers and consumers locally. The price swings at the pump could continue as long as the fighting chaos. It's like as long as the fighting does, and it will continue. It will continue. Now you're seeing over there in Slovenia, they're rationing gas. Like, whoa, whoa. Let's look at this one. It says why oil prices are so high in early 2026. It says oil prices have jumped sharply in early 2026, driven by major supply shocks. A war in the Middle East has all but cut flows through the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow Gulf waterway that carries about 20% of the world's oil. When the U.S. and Israel struck Iran on February 28th, and Iran retaliated by closing Hormuz, crude spiked above $119 a barrel, the highest since 2022. Even though prices have eased a bit since that spike, they're still far above pre-war levels. Brent crude is back near $100 and above most forecasts made just weeks ago. And I have to say this, man, you can't even trust the numbers that they're giving out right now. Because in an article I seen, like the article I brought out a few weeks ago, not months, but a few weeks ago. Let me go pull that back up and read a part of that. I have it here in my saved. So this is another article saying, the article I brought out a few weeks ago, it says oil prices hit 100 per barrel after Iran attacks 3 more cargo vessels. And when you jump down, I'm going to jump down to this point because it speaks about how this hasn't happened since the 70s, World War II, blah, 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 whatever. It says right here, or the oil fiasco in the 70s, World War II was earlier than that. But it says you will not be able to artificially lower the price of oil, expect oil at 200 per barrel, he said, and added, the price of oil depends on regional security, and you are the main source of insecurity in the region. All right, so, hey, man, there you go. All right, so this is from a few weeks ago saying it could possibly hit 200 a barrel. Still expect that possibility to happen. And if shit hits 200 a barrel, oh, that's going to cripple everything. People aren't going to be able to get for gas. They're going to really have to start rationing that shit. And oil affects all things. It affects more than just gas. You know, a lot of things use oil, you know. So there you go. But back to the other article, it says oil markets were already on edge before the latest conflict. Analysts say prices had an extra war risk premium of several dollars a barrel. Now that risk is real, tanker attacks and blocked shipping have actually removed millions of barrels per day from the world supply. In March alone, global supply plunged by an unprecedented 8 million barrels per day. God damn. A collapse that the International Energy Agency, IEA, warned is the largest in history. Man, this shit getting wicked, man. And it gets more into it. Yeah, this is a long article. It gets real deep into this stuff. But you know, hey man, Lord willing, this shit continues. You know, just want to back the elder's point going into all this, you know, all the troubles that are coming, all the troubles that are taking place. Let's just go here. Right, let's go here. We bring this out all the time in Matthew 24. It's also stated in Luke 21 and Mark 13. But this is how we know we are at the end. You know, we know we're at the end. It says verse 3 in Matthew 24, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be, and when shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? So this is how we know we're at the end. We're measuring the times diligently. That's our job. If you're not doing that, how can you call yourself a prophet? If you're not measuring the times diligently, if you're not blowing the trumpet, or if you're not sounding the alarm in the Lord's holy mountain, how can you call yourself a prophet? That doesn't make any sense. You're not warning nobody. You're not speaking something before it happens. So how can you call yourself a prophet or a watchman? But anyway, back to the point. When you jump down here at verse 7, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines. And these things are going to manufacture famines. These are manufactured famines. Famines are being manufactured right now, meaning purposely done. All right, this is not by natural cause. It says in pestilences, meaning plagues. Is this oil situation? Is this not a plague? This is a plague, man. This war is a plague. All right, to everybody's economy, especially over here in America. This is a major plague to America's economy. It says in the earthquakes in diverse places, all these are the beginning of sorrows. So that's where we're at. We're in the beginning of sorrows and expect pestilences to increase. In Slovenia, one of the European nations, they are now rationing gas. As the elder was bringing out, they are rationing gas over there. That shit gonna come here. The Lord's saving the best for last. All right. Food is only soaring up. You go to the store, grocery store, you get fucking 10 items. That shit costs fucking 120. This shit is insane. All right. And I'm talking about some regular shit. It ain't like you buying like 10 slabs of fucking steak, you know. But yeah, this shit, hey, shit getting wicked, man. And Lord willing, Lord willing, it continues to get worse. So I want to pull the second Esdras 15 out of this. Well, I don't know if it'll actually go to it. Let's see if they have access to this in this translation. So this one doesn't have access to the Apocrypha. Okay. I mean, that's okay. You know, it's whatever. Fuck you. Let me try this. Maybe it do. Second Esdras 15, verse 17, MSG. Yeah, well, they don't have it in the MSG at all, so it's fine. That's okay. All right, that's okay. So we're just gonna go over here and read it. All right, 215 and verse 17. All right, it says, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. All right, so men are gonna desire, people are gonna desire to travel and are not gonna be able. Well, look at what's happening at the airports. People are being deterred from going to the airports because first of all, these long ass wait times, there are no TSA agents, and then also they're sending ICE agents to the airports. Nobody wants to go there and see them, you know. Nobody wants to deal with that shit. Gas is soaring. They're soaring. So people are going to desire to travel, by car instead, but they're not going to be able because they can't afford it. And then once that rationing gets brought over here, because it's in Slovenia right now, take Slovenia for an example, the people gonna want to travel around, and they ain't gonna be able to because they can only get a certain amount of gas per day. So they ain't gonna be able to go on those long road trips, travel around. So they're gonna desire to go on these trips to different cities to get away, and they're gonna be unable to do so. Hell, you're even gonna have instances the elder started to bring out later in his lesson, where people are going to stop going to work because they can't afford the gas or they're being rationed. So they're going to just stop going to work. And not everybody can just resort to a remote job because not everybody works jobs, office jobs, to where it can be changed to remote. A lot of people work jobs where, you can't do that. You got to be hands-on site, right? So this is going to cripple everything, and hey, the Lord is saving America. As America is the best, saving the best for last. America will feel this. It will feel the worst of this, the brunt of this, man. All right, so you're seeing 2nd Esdras 15 and 17 play out right before our very eyes. All right, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. Let's close with getting that in the Good News translation. All right, 2nd Esdras 15 and 17 in the Good News translation. There will no longer be free access to these cities because the struggle for power will bring destruction, terror, and total confusion wherever people live. Driven by famine and terrible suffering, people will assault their neighbors and mercilessly plunder their possessions. All right, so there you go. So let's read that verse 17 again. There will no longer be free access to these cities. So you're not going to be able to freely travel as you would right this second. You won't be able to do that no more. All right, you're going to have authorization. Just like the other brother was talking about during the C1 Ragamuffin, the C19. All right, where they had said like that, essential workers only, and things of that sort. All right, so let's read that one more time in the GNT, 2nd Esdras 15 and 17. There will no longer be free access to these cities. You're gonna have to go through certain checkpoints. Let's not forget about that 15 mini cities. That hasn't been talked about in a little minute, but the 15 mini cities that were really highly talked about 2 to 3 years ago, yeah, that's gonna be established too. They already set it up. Every block you got a fucking Walmart, Target, fucking Chick-fil-A, Chipotle, Dollar General, Dollar Tree. You know what I'm saying? You got Schnucks, Publix, wherever you live at, HEB, all that stuff on every block, a Wawa everywhere or a Quick Trip, depending on where you live at. All that everywhere, Buc-ee's. So you ain't even got to travel nowhere for real. You got your Mickey D's, people love that McDonald's. You got your McDonald's and all that. All right, so things are only going to get worse. And we just sitting back and watching the Lord work. The water Yahweh Shemi, I was shy for allowing us to be in this truth right now. And I pray that you keep every brother that's in the gospel right now and every sister. I pray you keep us in the faith unto the end. Because hey, the times are only going to get worse. We are only in the beginning of sorrows, as we read in Matthew 24. All right, as 2nd Esdras 16 goes into it, we are in the birth pains. The birth pains. So these things are going to get worse, and we're seeing prophecy happening right before our eyes, before it even gets to America, and soon it's going to get to America. And in a sense, this is kind of happening in America right now too, because, like I said, shit is just becoming unaffordable. Like 2nd Esdras 16 say, because victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth, they shall find themselves or think themselves to be in good case. But now victuals aren't so good cheap no more. Inflation is hitting. Rationing is hitting. So now things aren't just so good cheap. Now you're realizing you were indeed not in a good case. Right? But anyway, as I said, I do hope and pray that this is edifying to the elect. Please go, watch the rest of the elders video. I got to close this lesson off. I got to handle some business. But, Baba Kasha, subscribe and watch the elders video. This is a very edifying lesson. All right. Only 25 minutes. You got 25 minutes. All right. So anyway, Call Halayim La, Abanawa Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rachakudash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who have taught us all this truth in the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai. And until next time, Abba Babal, Kwam, Yasharallah, Gadola Badyam, La Babal, Ha Gadol, Yahweh Mahar, Wa Ahabathum. And until next time, I would like to say unto you all, Shabbat Shalom. Get your mind right. We are 1 week away from the Passover. Get your mind right. Shalom.